Okay, sorry. Welcome to the May 21st, 2015 Downtown Design Review Committee. Our first order of business is to silence our phones. Next is roll call.
Betsy Brunstetter.
Present.
Gigi Faulkner. Present. Charles Ainsworth. Present. Ike Akinwande. Present. Corey Bates. Connie Scothorn. Richard Tannenbaum. You have a quorum.
Okay. There are, I hope that everyone has had a chance to read the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes, or do we have a motion of approval?
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, that was a Faulkner Ainsworth motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving right along. There are no cases withdrawn. No continuance requests. We have two items on the consent docket, 10 Northwest 6th Street and 6 West Reno. Do we have anyone that needs to pull these from the docket? Do we have a motion on the consent docket?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, that's an Ike and Corey motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The consent docket is approved. The cases for individual consideration. Item number A, 618 and 620 Southwest 5th Street. Is the applicant present? Okay. Would you like to, staff, you want to review? Okay, great.
This is a request for demolition of two residential structures. They fall under the criteria that would have allowed staff to approve them. However, both structures were listed in the historic survey when that was done in 2012 as contributing to a potential historic district. Therefore, we brought it before the committee for action. The applicant came to us after receiving a citation from the city because of the condition of the structures, and he applied for a demolition permit. And upon doing research, we discovered that they were both, as I said, on that survey. Included in your packet are pictures that the applicant provided of condition, as well as a copy of the citation that he had received with the city's estimation of the condition of the structure, which is on the screen right now for both houses. They are both on the same lot. The house in the back is older than the house in the front. And these were the pictures that the applicant included. Additionally, we've included the documentation from the survey that was done with information about what the importance of the houses were when they were built. One was built, I believe, in 1908, and I think the other one was maybe 1905 and 1900. And initially, I thought the one in the back had been moved on there, but it hadn't. It was actually built at that location. It is in the Coeur d'Alene area. However, as we know, that they haven't really initiated that yet. And staff has as recommendations the options if you determine that they are contributing, that would be for you to recommend denial. However, if you determine that they are not contributing, that would be for recommendation of approval of the demolition.
Okay. Thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward and tell us about your project, your demolition?
Yes. My name is Art Sanders, and these properties were inherited properties. The previous owner was quite handy and kept them up as best he could. The back property has not been occupied for years. It's in a total state of dilapidation. The front property is not quite as bad, but it's uninhabitable. It would probably cost tens of thousands of dollars to bring these properties up to code, and it's just economically unfeasible to do anything with them, and because of the rents in the area. There are a number of vacant lots in this block already. Other structures have been allowed to be torn down, and so we just simply request we be allowed to do that.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee? Any motions from the committee? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to visit about this? Thank you. Any action, guys?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve the demolition.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve demolition. That was Ainsworth and Faulkner. All in favor? Any opposed? Your application has been approved. Thank you very much. The next item is 5 Southwest 5th Street. Is the applicant present? Yes. Okay. Would you like to go over the staff?
A couple of months ago, you all, I must go back. You all saw this case. I'm trying to remember which one I hit to get out of this. There it is. Sorry. Demo, the original building that was at this location. At that time, there was, the applicant stated they were working on plans for hotel. So they're now before you with that hotel plan. They have demolished the structure. If you've been by there lately, you'll notice it's totally cleaned off and ready to go. And we were pleasantly pleased that they listened to the comments you made at the demo with the changes, because they did show you a potential building to go at that corner, which kind of had its back turned to Shields. And so the building that you're looking at today looks totally different than that one. There are 2 items that we've got as conditions for approval on this, which deal with the requirement for the 50% glass door or doors on the first floor, and we've added in there as a condition an option for them to use poster display cases or other detail to get up to the 50%, because they're at 30% right now. And the second thing deals with applying for a variance, because on 5th Street, they currently are wanting to put a directional sign in the right-of-way for the entrance into the parking lot. And so we have that listed as a condition, as well as we will need your action of support on that variance request if they go forward with that. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to do that. Or
certainly. And I assume you all have the packet. My name is Paul Schell with SQD Architects. I was here for the demo hearing. I think the largest comment at the demo hearing, we were thankful that we were able to present that kind of early concept and got some feedback from you on that, so we're grateful for that. We did take that to heart, and we really agreed with pretty much everything you said as far as the way the building was facing, the orientation to 5th and Shields. We did try and address that by kind of placing this, what we're calling a tower, kind of at that corner intersection. We've also moved the building back on the side away from the property line to allow a better, pedestrian corridor on both along 5th and Shields. I think previously, the site plan, I think we were pushing about maybe 4 to 6 feet away from Shields. We thought that was probably too close to traffic, so now I think we're about 15 feet away. Nice pedestrian corridor there, safety, is a consideration with that traffic there. And we also created kind of a boundary with those bollards and landscaping as well along there. Site-wise parking, we're still the same, roughly spaces that we were. Not a whole lot's changed there. As far as the parking goes, we're going to have a perimeter fence along the west side of the parking. That'll just be a kind of a standard Marriott fencing. It's a metal fencing, and then around the pool it will be metal fencing. That it'll be a low wall of cultured stone. The building itself, the materials on that will be brick, cultured stone, or similar metal panels. And then around what we're calling the crown of that tower, that'll be lit up. I think one of Marriott's colors for this hotel are blue, so that'll probably be blue LED, could just be white. And then you'll see some landscaping along the front there. That's conceptual. The owner is working with a landscape architect on that, but that's the landscaping that you see here is conceptual, but that's kind of what they're thinking along those lines. I think, as she mentioned, the biggest issue is the 50% requirement for the glazing on the first floor. Being that this is a hotel, the window patterns obviously align with the guest rooms. It's going to be difficult obviously we don't want to increase the size of those guest room windows. It is, according to code, it is, we're R1 residential, so for all intents and purposes, it is residential. You don't really want, passersby looking in their window, and making them bigger would, make that even more of a problem. So we will address that per the requirement we're not exactly sure what that detail is, but we will try and meet that requirement of 50% glazing on the first floor. The signage is really pretty small. Because we pushed the building back away from 5th Street, which would be the primary entrance to the parking, we do, I think that signage is maybe 3 feet tall or something, so that will be in the right-of-way, but we did want visibility for the guests of the hotel to be able to, know where to go, where to park. So that's why that's kind of where it's located now. A variance would be required for that. We also consider putting signage on that southwest corner of the building as well to accommodate that, so that's also an option if the variance isn't granted, but we would like to really put that in the right-of-way, again, just for visibility for guests. That's really kind of it, unless you have any more questions.
Any questions from the committee? Comments?
I'd just like to say that I very much appreciate incorporating the comments from the last presentation. I think the way the building addresses the corner and shields is a vast improvement to what was shown before. I appreciate the treatment on the east side on Shields to pull the building back and create a buffer for pedestrians along Shields. I don't know that it needs to be pulled back on 5th Street, but I guess I can go either way with that. Just one question on the cast stone or similar. What would be a similar?
We're looking at a few options. One of those could just be an alternate color brick. That could be actually recessed kind of into the face brick, so that could be an alternate color. Another option we're looking at is a stucco system, and we do have actually samples of that it looks very similar to this limestone or this I believe that's limestone in here. It's really difficult to unless you have a trained eye, you would never know that it wasn't cast stone. So that's another option we're looking at, and we would certainly be willing to present any samples of that. We have some that you could look at if necessary.
Just for the record, I agree with Corey Bates about the improvement in this building. the fact that we've got 30% versus 50% glass on this building, it seems that it still engages the pedestrians and the street. I'm not sure that I feel too strongly about that, and I don't know you'd have to come back if you wanted to add any kind of like display cases or anything like that. You'd need to come back before us to have that approved. So I don't have a really strong feeling about I just do feel like the building does engage the street, and that's what we're going for.
I guess my understanding of the glazing issue is that's the whole point of it, is you want to engage, this is an urban area, you want to engage passersby, and that makes perfect sense. We're working on a mixed-use retail development in Tulsa, and that whole first floor, I would say nearly 100% of that first floor is retail. So with the exception of 2-foot column space and that 20 feet on center, that is 100% glazing, and that makes perfect sense in that instance because you do have the retail, you do have people wanting to look into those windows, and the retailers wanting people to look into their restaurant or their store or whatever. Again, it's a little different here where this is primarily a residential, transient residential building to where you don't want people looking into the windows, yet you still want to, I guess, have that feeling of, those glazing and some interaction between the street. But we can certainly look at that. If I was to be honest, we would rather, not have to, add the additional glazing or figure out additional detail to get some glass on there, but we can certainly look at that.
The glazing is a guideline, so the committee has the discretion to vary the percentage and could accept the design as presented.
The glazing I don't think that bothers me either, because I think the two front faces of the building definitely engage the street and do what we want them to do. I would be in favor of approving this with the condition that you use cast stone or an alternative brick, and I'd like to not see stucco on this.
Okay.
Just to follow up on Corey's statement, I agree.
Yeah, and I would agree with that comment. I just wanted to echo some of the comments. I do appreciate what you guys have done at that corner and kind of that capstone that you have at the top. I think that's a nice gesture. I do not feel that strongly as far as the transparency of the glazing and such requirements, the guidelines, I should say. I think that you guys have done a good job of addressing that in trying to engage the street and engage the pedestrians by pushing that back a little bit away from the street. So just wanted to echo those comments.
Thank you. I would like to add that we've added glazing at every point that makes sense. The meeting rooms, essentially that entire wall now, with the exception of a couple columns in there for structure, is all glazing. And we've actually added more glazing along 5th Street, which actually looks into kind of some back of house areas, laundry, employee break rooms. So we're trying to put as much there as we can, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I guess, in those areas to do that. But if you'll look at the elevations, kind of the pattern of the windows going down, there's not a whole lot of area to place additional glazing, like in between the guest rooms, without just kind of muddling that, whole entire 4th floor, and then it just becomes a little, it's not working as well with the upper floors of the building when you start adding more glazing. But we would appreciate being able to kind of stay with 30% if that's acceptable to the committee.
Any other questions, comments? Any questions or comments from the people in the gallery? We have a motion.
I move to approve the application on the basis that it complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance, and with the glazing at 30%, and with the condition that where you have noted cast stone or other materials, that either be cast stone or an alternative brick. So that's my first motion. Oh, and that you, I need to add to that you receive a variance from Board of Adjustment on the sign. Is that all right? Oh, you want to do that in two? Okay, that was on one here. Okay. I'll just stick with the first motion then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so Gigi and Ike, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Oh, and then secondly, that I move to, that the applicant receives a variance from the Board of Adjustment on the sign ordinance against signs being located in the street right of way.
Okay, Gigi and Ike, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And then we need to make a recommendation of approval to Board of Adjustment for the sign ordinance that was it?
That was
Or do you
it.
want me to still make
I believe that was it.
recommendation? Did we do it? Okay.
That was the recommendation to the Board of Adjustment, the second motion. Yes. Okay. I think that's fine. Yeah. Susan says that's fine. Okay. Well, you are approved. Thank you very much for being here and going through the process.
Thank you very much.
The next business, other business, elect chair and vice chair. Are there any nominations from the floor? I'd like to elect Rand Elliott to chair. No, just kidding.
He's too busy.
I think we have some great candidates. I'd like to nominate Betsy to remain as our chair. And I would like to also nominate Gigi to remain as our vice chair.
Second.
Okay. You want us to step out? Okay. Any other nominations? Connie? Okay.
All in favor?
Do we have a second on that? Oh, you seconded it? You made it and seconded it? No. Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thanks. And we're recruiting others for next year. Okay, next item is a presentation by Rand Elliott, who chose not to be the chair. It's just a presentation, but you can sit wherever you want.
Yeah, he's the applicant, so he's going to present.
This makes me nervous.
Oh, you're presenting?
My name is Chuck Ainsworth. I live at 326 Northwest 18th. I always wanted to do this.
Be sure to write your name down on the piece of paper.
I am writing my name down. I always wanted to do this. Thank you, Rand, for letting me do this. We're here today to present Phase 2 of the Flatiron Project. As many of you know, this is an urban renewal project which kind of adds a layer or two on our process, but you've approved Phase 1, and I think most of you have driven by and seen our progress. We hope to have our tenant in by September, and I think we're headed to making that happen. At any rate, we're working on Phase 2. Rand has completed a design for Phase 2, which we initially submitted to the Urban Renewal Group. They, as you may know, have RTKL and Dallas as their advisors, and so they sent it to them. They made comments. We reviewed those, made some changes based on those, and ultimately made a presentation to the board, and they approved it. So at this point in time, we're here to make a presentation to you, and we'll be back later for after your comments for final approval. So I have with me world-renowned architect Rand Elliott and Cody.
And Cody?
Mini-me.
morning. It's kind of hard to follow that. I thank you.
I already signed it.
Okay, thank you. I feel like I'm on Letterman or something. Thanks for your time this morning. We're excited to share an update on what's going on with this particular project. And so we've narrowed down 100 slides to just about 80. So hopefully there's enough time for us to go through and review all of those.
Did you bring lunch, is the question?
Yes, that's good. Thank you, Betsy. I'll do that next time. But we'd love to go through this and share it with you. Chuck set it up very nicely. And so if we go through and give you a little bit of background history, I think you might find very interesting. Many people are lost when they come over to the east side of the tracks in my neighborhood. And on the left is the little blue triangle is the Harding Building, built in 1911. And on the right, the yellow building is the phase one of this particular project. An insurance company called Plyco is there. They insure other professionals. And then the purple piece is phase two, which is the project that we're talking about today. Many people ask why Harrison goes through this particular area and why is it a diagonal. And it's the location of the trolley that was done early in Oklahoma. And interestingly enough, we've studied Sanborn maps, and there were 8 flatiron-shaped lots or properties through here, between here and the Stiles Circle Park, which was the first park in Indian Territory, actually, and ultimately Oklahoma. So gives you a little bit of a sense of the location. And next, we're really excited to share these kinds of things with our colleagues who may or may not know about history in downtown. And Harrison is the street that we're talking about today. This is actually a view from 1898. This is looking to the east. It's hard to imagine what downtown Oklahoma City was like at that particular time, but we love the fact that we found this photograph at the Historical Society. So great light fixtures, you'll notice. We thought we'd give you a little bit of an idea about the construction process that's going on. It's a complicated building. This is basically the view of the building that we've been looking at for 20 years. And it has actually been boarded up for 27 years. And finally, you decide that you look at it every day and it's about time to do something. And so we've decided to do that. It was built in 1924. Cody, can you go back? I'm sorry. It was built in 1924 by a gentleman whose name was C.F. Metters. And we actually have Acme brick that is stamped 1924, which is a really cool thing to be able to do. So people have asked, why is it buff brick on one side and why is it red on the other? The buff brick was the expensive brick, and the red brick was the non-expensive brick. Next. Okay. This is actually a cleaned up version. We didn't want to show you the real view of the original, but it shows you with the early construction lighting. This was called the, in essence, hotel, the Como Hotel, and it was a boarding house, and you paid, I don't know, $2 for the room, but you had to pay extra for the bathroom, which would have been inconvenient. But nonetheless, that's how it worked, and on the ground level, there was a barber shop and an office or two and some things like that, so great history. One of the things that happened as we began this project and into the project process, the client decided it wasn't big enough, and so we decided to come back and add a third floor, which has been a wonderful and exciting opportunity to do this. And we love this image that shows the structure literally tying to the ground level, penetrating the second floor to be able to support a third level. What it's looking like, actually this is about a month and a half ago, images of what's going on. The idea of adding new structure with existing structure has been very exciting and dynamic, and it gives the building that's a real energy, we think. Next. On the right are the casement windows on the east side of the building, and of course you see the left-hand side. The corner of the building has what's called classically the Frank Lloyd Wright corner, and most of the time they did those corners sort of weaving them together because it was more expensive and took more time for the mason to actually saw cut or break them. So doing that kind of corner was a less expensive approach. Next. This photograph's actually a couple of months old. If you haven't been by, it's really starting to look good. There's roof on it. You can actually go up and down stairs, and we're happy to give you a tour if you'd like to do that. Next. Along the way, we have been really focused on discoveries and things that are historical in nature in our neighborhood. And if you'll notice here a couple of things that are very interesting. Interestingly enough, if you know David Battle, who's a construction estimator very well respected in our community, this is his great uncle. C.F. Metters that built this building, and we received their family archives on April the 10th, and so we actually have photographs and portraits of Mr. Metters that built this building. And here's some examples of that. He was 6 feet 8 inches tall, which is sort of interesting on the right-hand side. His head is scraping the inside of the arch. But they lived near downtown. We also discovered a 1949 photograph. To the right is the Phase 1 Flatiron building. To the left is the Harding building where our offices are. And you can imagine what the Harrison Walnut neighborhood was like. It's just an amazing place. It was a real deal, real city, and that sort of thing. And, of course, the highway went through and it changed it dramatically, but you really get a nice sense of its historic nature. In this file, there was also photographs of the Broadway extension from 1989 when it was there, and we love the construction trucks there. We also know that the Battles owned what's called the Del Prado Hotel, which is the one that says this block is for sale. It was sort of a controversial thing at the time. And then if you'll look to the far right, the Harding building kind of has a little peek through there from 1989. There are hundreds of documents. We loved this. They described it as an arrowhead-shaped building, which is interesting because Flatiron is the classic description. And there were 9 properties. And it took Frank Battle 11 years to get all of these properties under their control so that they could put it together. A couple of other things that are special about this neighborhood included some of the historic figures that came from this neighborhood. And we're particularly excited to share the fact that, you want to go to the next one, that the idea is to make connections to the neighborhood and the historic nature of this. And some of you have probably read Invisible Man, and you know about Ralph Ellison. He was born at 405 Northeast 1st Street. That address still exists. It's a part of the Hill. And we have some opportunities and some desire to represent and bring his legacy back to Oklahoma City. He grew up here and in the neighborhood. On page 7 of that book, there is a reference to the idea that his fictitious character lived in a basement with no windows, and they refer to 1,369 light bulbs hanging from the ceiling. We thought that was particularly appropriate, and we're going to propose to do a restaurant that has 1,369 light bulbs in its ceiling. Next. Gives you a little bit of a reference for the Phase 2 and how it fits. We have on-street parking, of course, and the idea is that the little building is kind of given a big hug by the big building. The big building is really a background building for this marvelous jewel at the front. This is the proposal, and on the left, of course, is the historic building. On the right is the proposed building. It's about 65,000 square feet. We've studied all kinds of approaches to this from terms of scale and height and that sort of thing to make sure that it all fits nicely, and we believe that the proportion scale is absolutely appropriate. Next. This is kind of the money shot. This is literally from my front door. This is the Harding building on the left. And you see how we've engaged the small building to be this lovely kind of centerpiece as an eastern gateway into downtown. And the addition is a background building pushed back from it. We actually have a third-floor balcony up here that the Plyco folks will use, and the views to downtown are just magnificent. Kind of gives you a sense of it. One of the things that's been very important through the urban renewal process that was recommended, of course, that we engage the street as much as we possibly could, and we're proposing that we have planters and trees and tables and chairs and that all around the block so that there really is an opportunity to spend some time out there, read the paper, have a cup of coffee kind of thing. And you'll see that as we look at the additional images. This is the south side. The podium matches the historic building height, which is the location for the parking space. And then you see this third floor deck, which is really an interesting thing in that it really does engage the sidewalk, even though it's not exactly at that level. You can see the umbrellas and so forth, the planters. We're using the planters to give a little bit of protection. It's a very busy series of streets so that when you sit there, you don't feel like someone's going to end up in your lap. We're coming around to the corner, the 6th Street corner, which is really the very important piece of the puzzle, and you get a really nice sense of downtown. The next shot, I think, really focuses on the corner. This is the location where we would like to do this restaurant or coffee shop that has 1,369 light bulbs in it, and it will be the thing that you will see as you get off the highway and come into downtown. And so this will be a very lively place. We imagine jazz music being played because that was Ralph Ellison's favorite. And then the view to downtown, magnificent opportunity, and really celebrating the fact that we have a Flatiron District in Oklahoma City, and really using that to express as an Eastern Gateway the dynamics of our downtown. We have pulled the elevator and the stair outside of the building shell in an effort to give us more leasable space, and it has added some dynamics to it. There's balconies around on the outside so that you can appreciate the view. And then just a marvelous view. This will be what you'll see as you come and go in downtown in the early parts of the evening, if you don't stop for a cup of coffee or something like that. Lovely way to greet visitors coming to our city. Next. One of the things that we have proposed because of its dominant position in coming into the city is that what we're calling celebration lighting. And this building represents that energy that is Oklahoma City right now and will continue to be. So there's a series of 46 LED lights that are companions to the vertical windows, and there are 46 lights because Oklahoma's the 46th state allowed into the union. And so the idea is that we will have color-changing light, which is not a new idea, but we feel like is in a perfect location to celebrate all of the energy and things that are going on. And this purple is particularly important because this is Betsy's month of her birthday, and so it's a celebration for that. And we have green light for St. Patrick's, and Chuck's birthday is orange, I think. So, next. We've done a couple of images that show possibilities for the inside, trying to make it as light, airy, open, and tall as we possibly can. We're hoping to be helpful to the GE Research Center and encouraging activities from that kind of tenant. Next. Next. Physical site plans, the small building on the left, the addition on the right. As you can see, there's parking along the curb and about 40 spaces or so, and we want to continue to encourage doing that. We're doing some studies where we brought Walker parking into our project, and we're studying all the parking for this. It's an interesting thing. You can also notice the triangular corner up at the top, which will be where this restaurant or coffee shop will be. We've done some preliminary space planning to show that, in fact, the triangular shape is very efficient, and it is, and we end up with about 13,000 square feet per floor. Thank you. We're happy to answer any questions. Cody is the project architect, and I would say has done a fabulous job, and we appreciate being here today and happy to answer any questions that you have.
I've been very excited about seeing this. I have, and fortunately, it was published long before we saw it, so that I've had an opportunity to think about it. Okay. And drive around the site, entering the city. A concern I had, and I don't think you have any control of this, is you need a building that is pretty big. And so in comparison to your lovely little gym there, this is very large. It does have the opportunity to step down a little bit, and the buildings on either side that are low are not necessarily buildings that we're going to keep. And
right.
Then the Bamasada site is going to have significant height. Right. What is this 7 stories?
It is.
It is. Okay.
Right. 5 and 2.
Okay. So I've been struggling with that. I feel like it's, we want the density. I just have been struggling with the
scale.
Overall size of the building. Yeah.
What I would just tell you is that we're working on master plans for the neighborhood. We imagine that there will be some changes going on. And I think, Betsy, over a period of time, the scale will find its balance, if you will. And so we've been studying a lot of things in the area and determining how the scale might really work together to make it feel comfortable. And I think by the time that Metropolitan is complete, that's a significant building, 350 units over there. The scale of the whole neighborhood is liable to come up over a period of time. And so, without going into enormous amount of detail, we imagine that there will be a combination of this small 2- and 3-story kind of thing that will tie the historic buildings and that sort of thing together, and then there will be edges, if you will, that are likely to stair-step up.
And then my other concern that I would like to challenge you to find a way, I appreciate the architectural detail on the parking garage, but I would like to challenge you to find some way to engage the sidewalk a little bit more. I love the restaurant with 1,000 whatever light bulbs, but there's just a long span of parking garage that isn't really, it makes it feel unfriendly to walk along next to. Maybe,
I think that we've studied this very carefully, and this is a good example of showing you that. The idea is that we have wide sidewalks, and the notion of putting a low planter, which allows you to have a little bit of protection if you're sitting along there. The idea of adding street trees, the idea of having planters with seasonal color and so forth is really important. And we feel like that it has softened its edges significantly. I'm not sure what we would do more. We have opened the corner up at the garage area to echo a little bit more of the corner on the right, even though you're looking in to see, if you look there on the right-hand side, we've opened that up to allow you to kind of look into the garage and to open the corner up a little bit. We're trying to find this balance between making it all work architecturally, making it as visible as we possibly can. We think that we've been successful at giving it its sense of presence, certainly at the daytime as well as at the night. We've given as much shade as we know how to do along the edges, and at the same time given some practical protection, if you will, as well as psychological protection around the edges. I'm not sure what we would do more, Betsy. Is there something that you have in mind that we would do differently?
I just wanted to throw that out as a challenge for you to think about and come up with a creative idea for that.
Do you mean it as far as like views just into the garage itself? We've got a challenge as far as fitting parking spaces into a triangular site for a garage. So
Probably not views into your garage, but more something to engage the public and
is it artwork?
Make it more
is it music? Is it, it could be all of that. One of the things that we hope will happen as time goes on with our project is that we will have activity on the street. One of the challenges that we are seeing that will continue to be is a very busy intersection, and there's almost situations where it's somewhat frightening. Some of the signalization don't let you get all the way across the street in a protected form, and so you tend to move a little quicker to do that. But we're happy to take a look at these things.
Okay.
Mr. Ainsworth, would you like to say something?
Well, I mean, every site presents challenges, and if you guys have driven by there, the traffic count on the streets that go by this, I don't know if you've walked over there lately, but there's 4,000 or 5,000 cars a day that go by there, and those 4,000 or 5,000 cars go by there at very compressed, there's in the morning and at noon and the evening, and so, and the other issue that we're dealing with is, parking. I mean, this design provides like 90 parking places, which is certainly not enough to handle this building. And if we start eating in and trying to create retail bays or whatever, I don't think it's a viable project. I mean, and even right now, I mean, we're trying to solve, we're probably going to need 250 parking places. So we're working on some alternatives to add parking to this site. And to take that a step further, all of the sites down there face this same challenge. Matt Brown has that filling station over there. and all these little triangle sites have the same problem. You got traffic, you got a small site, and you got to try to figure out how to do parking. And so I will tell you that Rand is working on a master plan for the entire area to try to figure out how to make this more pedestrian friendly, how to slow that traffic down. And I don't know if it's angle parking or, we try to do boulevards, but this is just part of a much bigger, situation that we're trying to find some answers for. So any comments you guys have or solutions, we're all ears.
Well, I guess I'm just going to step back for a second. The scale doesn't bother me. I think day one it will present itself boldly compared to its surroundings, but I think Devon Tower did the same thing, and I think the development that's going to occur around that will bring context to it. I think the same will happen in this area as well. Regarding the facade and its presence at the sidewalk, the way I would, or my perspective on the situation is more about the plane of the facade and the height of the facade, and the deviation of the facade from the Phase 1 building as far as the fenestration, proportions of openings.
Cody, you want to go around to maybe that south side? Try to keep up with you to focus here.
Do you know how tall the height of that wall is?
Which wall are you?
The top of the wall, the level 3 balcony that corresponds to the height of Phase 1.
This is roughly between 14 and 15 feet floor to floor, so 30 feet.
Okay. So that I guess that would be my concern at the pedestrian level of having a 30-foot brick flat wall for the entire length of the facade, and feeling more of a barrier against you rather than interacting with the facade.
Do you not think that the architectural treatment of the facade has a sense of energy? The intention was that it relates to an urban setting. It relates to a sense of speed and movement and motion going on in that space, and the scale of it is such that it has a nice textural quality, and those are the things that we were hoping to accomplish.
The openings, they match, they mimic the windows, the transom, and then the second floor, you can see the scale. We've tried to tie it together in a way.
If you, in fact,
let me go to another slide.
Yeah, if you look at this carefully, you can kind of see how we've tied the thing together in terms of what's going on there. And the idea with the podium of the new building and the proposed addition was that it feels like a lantern. The idea of having light glowing from the inside to the outside through those slits. We have to have 25% open minimum to be able to get air circulation in a parking structure. And so all of that has taken a part of this solution, if you will. Actually, RTKL and the Alliance for Urban Renewal approved this and thought it was a good solution.
And I'm not trying to take away.
No, I understand completely. It's a very interesting challenge. Other questions?
Well, I just have one question, and that is, are you going to weave the corner of the new corner the same way you weaved the other one?
Well, we haven't quite got to that detail yet. Connie, we've been thinking about these edges are a little more sharply done, so we're talking about a cast brick in that particular location. On the left-hand side where you see that, it's really kind of a cut corner, and so that's why the two angular elements come together at an interesting condition. So that's an interesting thought, and maybe there's a way to incorporate that detail into it somehow. It's a fun thought.
I'm not the architect, but I think it looks really nice. And I do travel that intersection, unfortunately, many times. And it's unfortunate. I mean, it's good for Chuck because I get to see what's going on. But traffic doesn't move by there quickly. It moves by there very slowly at 5 o'clock.
There's all of that. It's interesting because you're a landscape professional. We kind of imagined, and it's not shown here, but some sort of bright, cheery landscape, for the lack of a better term. The idea of sweet potato vine or something like that, which is vibrant and brilliant green, and that along with tulips and other things. Our plan is to really do a good job taking care of this, and because this site is the gateway into downtown. It's the eastern gateway, and I think that's what makes it so important, and the reason we're trying to be very, very careful about the statement that we make about our community. This is not an exotic building. It's not a wow building from the standpoint of a design thing. This is not Zaha Hadid or OMA or any of those kinds of things. It's intended to represent a very solid, very thoughtful building that will be here 100 years from now.
So the elevation that you see when you're coming in off of the highway, what is that elevation?
What is that elevation?
Right, is that the one?
Yes, it's this right here. This is the 6th Street view. You'd be literally in essence, at the stoplight, if you will.
Turning on to Harrison.
Turning on to Harrison, right.
Or if you're going just down Walnut.
Right, this
Bricktown.
Walnut would be on the left. I think the one previous to this,
Yeah.
Cody, is. Yeah. Yeah.
Walnut's here.
This is Walnut. Yeah. It is our hope over a period of time, as Chuck said earlier, we're hoping that there'll be an opportunity to suggest to the city, working with the city, that in this neighborhood, it's a changing and evolving area, and we'd love to have a median in the street, or we'd love to have trees there. We'd love to do some things like that that would help reduce the speed and improve the quality and the scale of the experience.
Well, once again, looking at this, this is probably your biggest challenge, this elevation right here that's on the screen. And I don't know, maybe there'll never be any pedestrians on that street, but that's not my hope. Anyway, I would like you to really think about it, because I know you've got some great ideas up there. And, I mean, this is a wonderful building. I really think it's a beautiful building, and I actually, when you said it's not a wow building, I kind of disagree.
Well, thank you.
But
we appreciate your comments. I mean, it's been a very interesting, it's one of those kinds of projects that, everybody's looking and watching and that sort of thing, and we feel like the responsibility is significant to do something because it represents all of us. And we have taken that very seriously. We want this to be a really special building.
Cool. Well, thanks for showing it to us. Thanks for being here.
We'll be back in front of you.
Sorry,
Corey?
just one more question.
Sure, of course.
Just curious what the approach is on the brick and how it relates to the existing building. Have you found something that...
We have. I'm sorry, we ended up cutting our slides down. Do we have that?
We don't have that slide on here.
It's been very interesting because the original brick looks to be either a very poor combed brick or a very good bark face, because it's a combination of those two things. And a combed brick has the striations in it. And the brick that's in the existing building has that, but then there's sort of globs, if you will, that are there. So it's some combination of that. That brick doesn't exist anymore. And so what we've done is we've gone back through, we're dead on color-wise, which we're really excited about. But we're doing a comb-faced brick, which will add texture, Betsy, to your point. In terms of the quality of it and the scale of it, it will have a very nice texture, matching color. And one of the things that is really a value, Cody, can you go back to the south elevation? The fact that the buildings are separated by this entryway acts as a reveal, if you will, so that you don't have historic things slamming up against new things. And you never can get it right because the color is never the same. It never comes out of the same spot in the right place. And so you end up having an opportunity, and it really worked in our favor here to have this slot, which is where the small building stops right here, that acts as our gateway, it acts as our reveal, and it allows us to separate materials. So color-wise we're on, texture-wise it's different. And in some ways we've studied that and decided that that's a good thing, actually, that it represents the fact that we have something that's historic in nature, and we've left that alone, and something new is different but compatible with that. So it's a very interesting point. Thank you. The curtain wall? On the left? On the small building. One of the things that happened sort of midway through the project initially was that the Plyco folks said that we need more space, and so we added a third floor boardroom and some additional offices there. And they didn't need the whole thing. And so we started talking about, well, there's some real opportunities and value here. And so we did an outdoor deck. And it is a beautiful gold glass that we've studied in great detail to be compatible with the buff-colored brick. And those, that module of glass, which is roughly at 24 inches, continues on as a series of glass columns that you can see on the upper part of the left. And what it does is that it's 50% open. And what that does is it allows us to have wind protection and sun protection from the south and from the north. And so you'll be able to be outdoors there and have some protection from the constant southern wind and that early north wind as well. But it does not impair your views to downtown. So it ought to be a wonderful place to be outdoors, and they plan to do some meetings and lunches and things like that there. The new building, curtain wall, okay. Chuck is, thank you, Chuck.
He's excited. That's as he should be.
Yeah. Very good. Corey, let me continue on. One of the things that we're talking about here is doing a construction process that is called componentizing, and it means that you build parts on the ground and you fly them into place. And so we are debating about the exact materials, but we would like for it to be masonry. And there's a process and a material called thin brick. You literally use just a half-inch face brick. There's even a system that it does not go up with mortar. It literally has a clamping system. You install the masonry with a rubber mallet, and it snaps onto a metal backing. And what it allows you to do is to put several sections together. It might be 30-foot wide sections, 15 feet high. They literally fly to the location, and you install them, fully glazed, finishes electrical in it, and all those kinds of things. And we've got a challenge because we have a very busy intersection. We're trying to find ways to do this as quickly and rapidly as we can, and also economically. And so there's some interesting things that we're approaching from that standpoint. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Yep. Can't wait for you to come back.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Ellsworth.
Okay, Laura, you have a whole bunch of administrative approvals, but I think we probably don't need to go through them unless you have anything that's like you think we will notice and will want to know about.
No, just you can see how busy we have been through the third quarter of this fiscal year. We have as many applications as we did all of last year.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
That's amazing. We have we have a Board of Adjustment case, which is the bus station?
It's the bus station, so its district court date has been, last I heard, was set for June 24th.
Okay.
And one thing that didn't get listed here was the 400 North Walnut was supposed to be, appeal was supposed to be heard this afternoon, but it's been delayed till next month.
Okay. Planning Commission, anything on that?
We are still trying to move the demolition ordinance text forward. I'm very hopeful that next Thursday it will be introduced to Planning Commission. It has not changed. As we've been moving through, it has not changed since the version you guys recommended.
Okay. Any additional comments from the staff? So do you feel like you're getting a drink of water from a fire hose? Is that?
After this week, yes.
Okay.
2 days ago was filing deadline, and it was just a revolving door.
Yes, lots of cases came in.
Do we have a lot of applications for next month?
Yes, I would say I think 75% of the cases that came in are going to be on your agenda for next month if they provide us everything we need.
Ultimately, we can't declare right now what will be.
So we'll have a meeting next month.
It's
right?
for sure you're going to have a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Also, I had sent out an email about DDRC is going to go live starting with the July meeting. You're already taped. I mean, you won't even perceive that there's a difference.
Yeah. except for people commenting in the public.
Well, and
Oh, I
just
saw
make
you
sure
on
to use your
TV.
microphones.
Yeah, make sure and use your microphone.
Okay, any comments from, Susan, did you have a comment? Okay, any comments from the committee? No comment. I did want to make a comment. I do appreciate everybody's comments on the presentation because that is our opportunity to talk to the client before we get the final presentation. So the more comments or questions that we have about the project, the more we'll understand it. And so I do appreciate everybody's speaking up on that. And the next meeting is June 18th. Everybody going to be here for that? Right. So, and we are adjourned.
No vacation.
Thank you. Okay, I tried to send you you haven't gotten a thank you note or thank you email because I got a bounce back.